Very impressive, and the floor is yours, Bernard.
Well, thank you very much. I'm retired now. I just retired, and so although I served in the rank of Lieutenant General, if you don't retire with 3 years' time and grade, you retire as a Major General, hence my title in retirement. I had the privilege to command at several levels, and in there I got to see the targeting process that we use as airmen. And so really what I want to talk to you about, as General Riley talked about from a command perspective and from a soldier's perspective, I want to talk to you about targeting responsibilities as an airman. It's pretty clear for an airman when he gets a target that's assigned to him and it's on the air tasking order. The air tasking order is a 72-hour cycle. We start planning today's air tasking order 3 days prior. And in that, we look at the Joint Integrated Prioritized Targeting List, and we get a target from that, and we get a designated strike. It's already been vetted for, all the criteria that Jonathan spoke about, and it's already had a full collateral damage estimate. So that's fairly easy for the airman. Take a weapon. We already tell you what weapon to use. Hit this target on at this time, and that really takes a lot of burden off the airman. The second category of targets is time-sensitive targets. So it's within the air tasking order that's currently being run for that day, and we see a high-value target, for example. However that came up, through what channel, we evaluate the intelligence, we make sure we have positive identification, and then some aircraft that's already on another tasking gets allocated to that mission. And so now the pilot has to find that target. He has to work with the ground commander who's responsible for that strike. They have to positively identify the target, and then they have to assess collateral damage if it's a fixed target or if it's a moving target. What is extremely challenging for a pilot is a moving target. It's hard to hit. We've designed weapons that do a better job at doing that, but you basically have a moving collateral damage problem. So a vehicle can be exiting a town, and you think you're good, and you drop the bomb, and during the weapon's time of flight, the vehicle travels into another town. And when the bomb hits, you're in another town. So it requires extreme teamwork between the flight lead who is dropping the weapon and his wingman to look out ahead to see where that vehicle is traveling and determine whether during time of flight you're going to have another collateral damage problem. Very, very difficult task for the pilot. The thing, though, that it's good about all this, even though he's been asked to drop the weapon, the pilot can always say, I'm not going to drop a weapon because I don't think the conditions are right. The pilot always has final release authority. And so that's a very important responsibility that we put on our pilots. So I've talked about deliberate targeting, on the ground. They come under enemy fire, and they determine that they cannot quell that threat or fight that threat by themselves with their inherent firepower, and they call in close air support. It is perhaps the most challenging task for any aviator is to engage in a close air support situation. We've had a lot of mistakes in scenarios like that where we maybe have inadvertently dropped the bomb on friendly forces, or we have collateral damage because we misidentified the target. So over time and with lessons learned, we've developed a very elaborate procedure to get it right. We've developed a checklist, which is called a 9-line procedure, that has to be run every time we get ready to drop a bomb in a close air support scenario. And it has to be run step by step by step. And there are mandatory items in that checklist that have to be read back by the pilot before he delivers. We embed with the ground commander an airman on the ground. He is a senior non-commissioned officer who is skilled in aerial weapons delivery. He understands what weapons do what damage. He understands how an attack axis can reduce collateral damage. And he will help. We embed an airman on the in the ground formation to help the ground commander design the attack. And he works with the pilot, and they collaborate to create the best attack. When I was an air wing commander in Iraq, we had a situation where an Iraqi Army unit was working with a U.S. Army unit. They had found some insurgents that were heavily fortified in a house in a small neighborhood, and they were really putting down a lot of fire against the maneuver force. They called in for close air support, and as the attack was just about to happen, the pilot called off the attack because As he was getting closer, his tools in his cockpit showed him what the collateral damage estimate was, and as he got closer, he deemed that his bomb fragmentation might actually affect some neighboring houses. So he called off the attack, and he reoriented his attack and recoordinated to come from a different direction where it would minimize the collateral damage. So I was very proud of that officer that day for going to that level of effort. Throughout time, as we've looked at this problem with collateral damage, we have given the pilot better cues in the cockpit, better estimates within his cockpit. We used to not have in our targeting pod any estimate of where the bomb fragmentation pattern would go. Now, based on the bomb you've chosen and it's on your stores management system ready for release, you get an estimate of where the collateral damage is. We've designed weapons that have the same weight, 500-pound bomb. One is a more high explosive bomb, one is a lower collateral damage weapon. It's been designed so it has less fragmentation. So we've gone to great efforts to give the pilot, the ground commander, all the tools they need to correctly hit a military target but reduce collateral damage. Ultimately, it's the pilot's call. If he feels uncomfortable in a situation, he will not drop the bomb. And finally, anytime we drop a kinetic weapon, we bring the film back, it's filmed, and we do a deep analysis on it to see if we can learn anything about the weapon, to see if we can learn anything about the tactics that were used, the integration between air and ground, but also to have proof that if anything went wrong, we now have it on record. And we keep a record of every combat strike, just in case there's a claim later on that something went wrong. And if it did, we want to know about it, and we want to investigate it, and we want to fix it for the future. And so there's a great responsibility for an airman in a cockpit in this day and age before he releases a weapon. Thank you very much.